That should be getting us going. Okay, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, to welcome us, and then we'll get into our packed agenda and really great panelists we have for y'all today.
Sure. Appreciate everybody being on the call. Lots going on. I'll reserve kind of my updates that we're working on until my time on the agenda. But since this is just welcoming, I'll say welcome all and appreciate you being here and turn it over to you, Caitlin.
Sounds great. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. I'm working off of a single screen here today, so trying to multitask. I'm just going to do a little quick brief for you all. Okay, can you all see that? Wait, I got that up. Now I got to do the share. Okay, this is going to be challenging. Okay, you're all going to see your faces for a second, but okay. See this screen.
Got it.
Yep. Sorry, I'm in between moves here, so I'm working off of a laptop. How about that? You got that up?
Perfect.
See that? Okay, great. Let me put this down. Okay, so here's our agenda we have going on. We're going to start from the resilient side. I did want to give you some really brief updates from some things we touched on at the last meeting. So right here, you'll see a really nice picture of the mayor. Sorry, he's getting blocked with my things here. We did 2 weeks ago, we had a signing agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers for the $7.625 million that we got to do for stormwater projects, including kicking off more work for brick arches and starting that design work out in the DuPont Wapoo Basin in West Ashley. So that's been a really exciting update. And then also we had been updating y'all on the Rosemont and Bridgeview Resilience Plan. And as a reminder, this is a planning effort that we're doing with other community partners right there, Low Country Alliance for Model Communities, Sustainability Institute, and we're looking at nature-based flooding approaches for that area and coming up with some immediate and short-term and long-term action plans for the Rosemont community. And what's really exciting is we really want to utilize and leverage this as a framework to replicate in other areas across the city. We did last weekend, we held a kickoff meeting there with our partners, and it was really successful, and we're going to be updating the community on some project development and hopefully getting some of those projects on our city shortlist here that we'll be developing over the next couple of months in our budget process. And then I just want to segue again, we had our WaterWise engagements the last time we met. They were really successful. We had 5 of them across the city. They included 14 partners, including from the state and county and other municipalities. 8 city departments participated, and we had over 200 residents come out. So we're really excited. And we even got some congressional recognition from Congresswoman Nancy Mace. So that was really exciting. And next steps, and that's one of the things that you'll be hearing about today is, WaterWise, we did this in a public engagement to start to really help the community and residents understand thinking about water by their basin, but also really as a streamlined resource for data that we have at the city, for all of our resident tools and anything related to water management and flood planning projects, really being in a one-stop resource. And you'll hear from Sebastian shortly, a fellow that we have with us, about how he's helping us develop that for online communications. So really excited. I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to introduce, so really to segue from WaterWise, I wanted to bring Shannon Slade and Robert Hawk. So Shannon is our still fairly newly appointed Director of Innovation here at the City of Charleston, and Robert's been with the city for I won't say a very long time, but he's our expert, our data expert, as our GIS director. And what I really wanted to bring to the table, and I think get feedback from y'all, is as we're still new as this committee and thinking of routines, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool to get some feedback of metrics and data to routinely have and share with you at the update of each committee meeting, whether, that be some of our title trends, some of the events we've had, some of them, I think Matt, when he gets in his update, can talk about some of maybe the more stormwater metrics that we can bring to. And then, again, because data is really what we use to help drive our planning and strategies and some of the resources and investments that we do here in the city. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon and Robert to talk a little bit about what they do, what the city is doing, and how we can incorporate some of your feedback of how we can continue to enhance what we're doing with our data collection and transparency with residents in the community. And then we'll segue to Sebastian and what he's doing for our Waterwise online communication. So Shannon, take it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. Hi, everyone. I think I've met a few folks on this call, but for those who haven't, I'm Shannon Slade. I'm a Director of Innovation with the City of Charleston. I know innovation can be in a bit of an amorphous term, so the way I like to define it is I help build collaboration across our departments and internal teams, as well as with external partners to help develop data-driven and design-based tools and solutions to key priorities for the city. I'm going to take a moment and pull up my screen. Recently reset up my screen, so they're jumping around a little bit as well. Are we seeing the slides now, Kim?
We got you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everybody. So I'll quickly jump into an introduction, an overview of how we're comparing and using comprehensive data tools linked to larger water management goals of the city. And then I'll hand it over to Robert Hawk, our GIS director, who will provide a more comprehensive overview about some of the exciting updates on the great work his team is doing to leverage data to both understand and address Charleston's flooding and sea level rise challenges. So pulling from the resources and education portion of the water plan's recommendations, as we know, strengthening our need to leverage real-time alerts and data for collection and monitoring around flooding is incredibly important. We also know that the public needs to be able to easily find and understand the often complex and varied information this data provides. The importance of creating a one-stop shop for residents to find this information is something that I know Sebastian will touch on later in this presentation. But as Kaylin mentioned, we're just really excited to get your all's thoughts on some of the existing tools we have and to continue to engage with you all and leverage this committee to help make our work better. Kaylin asked me to highlight some examples of some of the tools we have available. So our local tide trends, which refresh monthly, are a resource that pulls from NOAA, from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the federal body, and can also be found on our city's open data portal under our tie-dye data, which Robert will highlight shortly. As you'll see in the larger table on the right here, you have an aggregate of our minor, moderate, and high tides. I know this group does not need to be overly educated on the different types of tides we have in Charleston. And as we're at the beginning of our hurricane season, I just wanted to pull a comparison to some of the previous examples from the end of for 2023. So as you see right now, we've only had about 12 hours of high flood risk. By the end of 2023, within that year, we had 125 hours. So as things start to escalate and become more rapid, also pointing out that in 2023 as well, we had over half of our high tides were above the average. So things can get pretty intense. We like to provide you all with real-time information. And Robert's team is exceptional at doing that. So Robert, I'll hand it over to you. I'll still drive the slides, but to have you talk to how you are leveraging the different data and tools that you all have designed.
Thanks, Shannon. So I'm the GIS director for the city. So a lot of the data collection and data storage happens in GIS. And this is just a super high level overview of just a handful of the flood related data sets that we collect and what we do with them and how we leverage them. So this is a list of our real-time data, which means that we monitor this almost in real time, every few minutes or every 15 minutes. The city maintains 5 weather stations that we collect that data in real time and store it every 15 minutes. So going back to 2015, we have the rain amount, the rain rate, the wind speed, and the wind direction every 15 minutes. And then for the tide, we rely heavily on NOAA's harbor gauge. We're lucky to have a gauge right in Charleston Harbor, and it updates every 6 minutes. So we monitor it in real time and store that data historically too, going back to 2015. And then the tide forecast is maintained by the National Weather Service, which is different than NOAA's predicted tides. The predicted tides would be your fisherman's tide table that gets calculated months in advance just based on the astronomical state of the moon. So the Weather Service forecasts out about 4 days and adjusts those predictions based on weather condition, different tide currents, weather off the coast. And it changes, it can change and it does change. So we monitor it and that it updates maybe every 12 hours. Charleston's road closures mostly are input by the police department. So we collect that data going back to 2015. Waze alerts, we have the ability to consume the Waze data. So every time somebody submits a flooding alert, that these come from actual Waze users, that they can click a button on their Waze app to say, hey, it's flooding, that we get those in real time. And anytime there's more than two, we get alerted to let us know that something's going on. The INWS alerts are the Weather Service alerts that I think everybody's familiar with, that we store those historically to a database table. And then we have 3 roadway sensors that one at the 61 split, that they're flashing flood warning signs. Haygood and Fishburne have a flood warning sign. And then there's a new one that will at Hughes King that we'll look at shortly. And so what do we do with this data? We're monitoring in real time and storing it historically, but internally we get
Robert,
alerted.
could I ask you a question, Robert? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Go back to that one.
Yep.
Real quick. Have you guys considered some gauges on some of the creeks? And I'll use an example, Burden Creek on Johns Island here. You know, there's about to be 420 homes built on it. It would be fantastic to measure it before they're built and then after they're built. And certainly this may be for Matt too. I know that, you know, the stormwater regs are, I guess it's 100-year, you know, type of events. And it'd be great to understand if what we're doing relative to retaining water on site and slowly releasing it is actually working. And I know that's you know, one thing is theory and one thing is reality. So I'd love to see you guys. I just use Burden Creek as an example on Johns Island, where you can do things, you know, today and then watch as development comes and see if the stormwater regs are actually doing what they say they're doing. So I encourage you to do that.
Absolutely. That the technology for deploying low-cost sensors is getting better and better. And that actually in a few minutes, I'm going to show you one of these sensors that we recently deployed, and that they are things that we can deploy in creeks in different areas of the city. So absolutely, that's something we wish we had. We wish we had more real-time data, and we're slowly expanding our sensor program. So with that real-time data, that we use it to do internal alerting, that when the tide passes the flood stage, internally, a core group of us get alerts on our phone. So that's how internally how we leverage that data. So everybody has situation awareness based on all that real-time data. And then publicly, we cram all that data into our public-facing TideEye app that Google Analytics say that we had 20,000 users in the last 12 months. And looking at days where we had a significant event, that around 2,000 people turn on TideEye to see what's going on, which is very rewarding to see. And that I'm not surprised that during the WaterWise events that we had TideEye was one of the things we're showing people. And for the most part, most people were aware of it and said they use it all the time, which was great to hear. And I also get that we get messages when TideEye's wrong, that and it's just it shows that people are using it and they're educated, that the Charleston's a pretty flood savvy city, that they understand the tides, and TideEye helps them do that. So, all right, next slide. And then other internal data sets that we use that that this is data we use to find our trouble spots. We use it to help bolster our grant submissions, and it's just more data we have to point to let us know where it floods and why. Specifically, we can tie all this data to the real-time data, the rain data, the tide data, that we can start to figure out, why does this area flood? Is it rain related? Is it tide related only? Or is it a combination of both? Then we've got drainage work orders, flooded vehicle data. Anytime people are rescued or a car is towed, we have that data, which is pretty valuable. Tie-dye photos, through the tie-dye app, you can take pictures, and it timestamps and attaches all that rain and tide data to the picture, so you can get an idea of what caused the flooding that we're looking at. We've got flood claim data, of course, city damage reports that the public can report flooding during larger events, and we keep all that data historically. And then our damage assessments that we have to go out and check every structure in the floodplain during major events and catalog the amount of damage that flooding may have caused. Next slide. And a lot of this data is available to the public. Most of the weather and tide data is that we publish in our open data portal. That the tide data comes from NOAA, but it's not that. It can be challenging to get it from their website, so we kind of collected it and did some analysis on it and made some secondary tables, and we put all that into the open data portal with the hope that university students and whoever else would want to do some research has that data easily accessible. Next slide. And so we have all this data, so what are we doing with it? That our Casey Conrad, a GIS analyst, did a national conference presentation on how we use all this data to specifically look for places to maybe do some mitigation measures at trouble spots for traffic. Whether it's warning or actual barricades. But first you want to know, where should we put them, and back that up with data. So that's what this slide's kind of showing you, that it's showing you the peninsula with all of our road closure, flooded vehicle data, elevation data, and then a lot of analysis. And that table there is showing just all of our trouble spots and ranking them. Next slide. So to the spots where we leverage that data and went and actually installed some things is we now have a flood warning sign at the 61 split where it splits off into St. Andrews from 17. So an example of using the data that we have a tie-dye picture. It's time stamped. We can look at what the tide was when that picture was taken. It was 7.5 feet. And then we can look at the historical data and go, oh, wow, it was over 7.5 feet 124 times since 2015. So that's a good spot to put a sign, and that now we have one. And this is part of our real-time data too, that we get alerts to a large group of us internally when these signs activate and deactivate. Next slide. And this is exciting. This is not many people know about this yet, but Hughie King Street was #1 on the peninsula as one of the most impacted intersections, and it's rain. So these are hard to plan for. Tide stuff we can usually know when it's gonna happen, plan for it. But the rain is a little trickier. It depends on how fast the rain's coming down, how much is coming down, a myriad of factors. So we're a little bit blind on when Hughie King floods, and a lot of cars have been lost here. So when we have now one of these small, low-cost sensors installed that will measure when the intersection start flooding, and then also how deep the water is. And shortly after deploying it, we actually had an event, and it's been through 2 events, and it's performing well. And luckily we also have a camera here, so we can, the police department has a camera so we can, it'll let us know when it starts to flood, and we can look to verify is the sensor working right. And this was exciting to watch this through a couple events, because I've watched this before, and have seen cars stalled out in this intersection. So now we can send messages when the road starts to flood to staff to barricade the road. So hopefully maybe we can get the barricades out sooner. And also when the water recedes, we'll know, okay, we can go remove those barricades. And even more exciting is through the subscription through this company. So we pay a yearly fee, and part of that fee will allow anybody to register to get text messages when this road starts to flood, which I think is going to be popular, because this is a choke point for a lot of people on their commute into or out of town. So that's some exciting news, and that this is the first one we deployed. It's not trivial to find a spot to put these, and we have 2 more ordered that there's a handful of spots. We haven't quite decided exactly where to put them, but they're probably going to be on the peninsula too. And once we have those, we'll have pretty good, much better situation awareness for rain events, that we'll be able to measure how deep the water in one place, and that'll kind of really flesh out the real-time flood inundation map for the peninsula. So that is all I have. So thank you. Any questions, or is that later?
Remember where.
I do. I have one.
Yes.
Do you have any sensors like that in any areas, West Ashley or Peninsula, for example, Central Park Road? I know we're working on that drainage over there, but there are times when certain parts of Central Park Road gets inundated with water.
Yeah, no, not yet. That this was the first one, and that it's really been a long time project to get one of these in the field. That we had some issue of where we're going to put them. At first, we want to put them on power poles, but Dominion denied it because it's got solar, and they wouldn't allow solar devices on their power poles, and then a myriad of other problems. So we really solved a lot of it with this first sensor, and now that we have it, it kind of unlocks being able to deploy them at other places. And ideally, yes, we don't have as robust information for areas off the peninsula. So those would be ideal places to maybe put some of these low-cost sensors that we'll look at going forward.
Well, I want to thank you. The King and Hugie is a big one. So,
Right.
literally, I mean, we got a fire station not too far from there. They got a John boat, literally to ferry people. I'm not kidding, ferry people who
Yep.
go when it's too deep. I've got one other question, and I'll be quiet. Now, this has nothing to is outside of our auspices, but hypothetically, thinking about what happened in Texas, if we had a situation like that, for example, let's say it was different, but it was one of the dams above us. I don't know if the Panopolis Dam were to break. Do we have what kind of warning would the people on Daniel Island get in the event something catastrophic like that happened?
Yeah, the good news for the a scenario where the Panopolis Dam fails is that it takes a pretty good long time for the water to get to Daniel Island. So they'll have, I think, a day and a half or 2 days notice before the
wow.
water gets there.
Okay,
So,
plenty of time.
but yeah, we focus on the tide and some rain bombs on the peninsula, but something like that happened in Texas is yeah, it's eye-opening that we really do need to pay attention to the rivers, and there I think we rely on the weather service a lot.
Thank
And
you.
just real quick about Hugie King, Matt will probably bring this up, but we have a very large pump station project there that's going to be online, I think maybe next year, that hopefully is going to mitigate much of the problem at Hugie King. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon and Robert. To keep us on track here with schedule, I'm going to have Sebastian, and he's gonna kind of quickly try to run through what he's been working on. So just to introduce Sebastian, he's with us for 10 weeks through the Harvard Bloomberg Smart Cities Leadership Program. He is a grad student fellow that has been gifted to us for 10 weeks here at Charleston. And we've been putting him to work on some pretty big projects that maybe some other folks couldn't do in 10 weeks, but Sebastian can, and he's been working with us to basically collate a lot of our online resources and coming up with some different strategies and toolkits for residents. So you all are getting the preview of what our new website is going to look like, and we appreciate your feedback, and he's going to incorporate that. And if we can't get to it all today in the feedback, like, you all know how to reach out to me and we'll make sure he gets it in there. But Sebastian, go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Thank you so much, Kaylin, for having me on here. And thanks everyone for having me on the meeting today. I want to reiterate what Kaylin just said. If you have any input, I'm very interested in getting your perspective, because we do want to make sure that like diverse geographies are also one of the top priorities for making sure that we have input for shaping these tools. So I'm going to share this presentation here. Okay, we're seeing this?
We gotcha.
All right. So as Caitlin mentioned, we should all know by now about the Waterwise open houses that were hosted in May this year. Those open houses were hosted in response to the idea or recommendation for a one water communication strategy around water management in the city that was rebranded to Waterwise. And what I've started doing so far under Kaylin is thinking about expanding Waterwise and how do we make it into this more comprehensive communication plan for water management for the city. So what has previously been these open houses is now expanding to be a website. First and foremost, residents wanted a centralized digital platform for all of the different water-related resources that the city has. And then also, once we have this website, how do we keep on communicating around water? Now that we have this website, that can give us a hub for water-related communications continuously. So this is what the project has consisted of so far. Completed is the new homepage, which I'll demo in just a moment, which was created from analyzing some resources from similar cities, and then a full audit of all of the resources available on the website, which have now been included on this new homepage for Waterwise. We've also drafted new feedback forms for the website and drafted a new data dashboard, which seeks to integrate the Basin Flood Action Program as well as tie-dye and create a similar to how Waterwise is consolidating all these resources, create a dashboard for all that data. So in progress, we are seeking to greenlight that dashboard development with GIS. Now that we have this feedback form drafted, we've gotten feedback on the feedback form from the communications department. So we're going to be putting that on a digital platform and attaching it to the website. And we're going to, I'm going to be focusing on developing recommendations for how we can continue communicating around this website. And lastly, I'm preparing a final report, which is going to detail the design and strategy behind this website, because the city is also working with new web developers to reconstruct the website. So ideally, I want the work that I'm doing now to serve to help guide these new web developers to make something similar and potentially even better in the future. These are, just for a quick review, like the key parts of the water plan that I've identified with Kaylin as being related to all the work that I'm doing. We have R1 on the right, which initially recommended the creation of this whole communications plan. But then we also have R3 in the middle, recommends this data dashboard that we're working on. And then we have this prioritization of water management education and communication between residents in the city. So here you see just a quick summary of some of the things that I mentioned prior. We have the feedback form content in the middle. On the left, you see the audit that I conducted, just a piece of that with all of the resources currently available, and this mock-up that I've created of the data dashboard that we're working on with GIS. And I will end this presentation now and share again to show the new website. Okay. So this should be visible now. And if we just go into Google now, search WaterWise Charleston, then this link will take us to the new homepage. Let it load for a moment. So what we've done is we've created these top-level buckets into which we've sorted all of the content that I identified in the audit. We're going to be doing a monthly update section that we're hoping to include in the city's newsletter. That'll be part of the communications recommendation that I'll be developing over the next month. And then below here, we can see for all of these page sections, they all link down to the various resources that the city has available. So for example, as Robert was discussing all the data, we can now access that from there. And now we have this platform available that compiles all of the different water-related resources that the city has, organized to be as intuitive as possible for residents. Under projects, again, we can go down there, and then the very first one, it'll link us to the Basin Flood Action Program. And we can see what project we have in our neighborhood. And we see all these same resources doubled up on the left. So it's very intuitive, easy to navigate, and that's where we're at so far. So thanks for letting me share, and I'm looking forward to having feedback on the website so far.
Impressive.
Thank you, Sebastian. And he's still here with us for like 4 more weeks. So he's just done that all in like 4 weeks. So we're going to get more out of him. But thank you, Sebastian, for sharing that. And as you all have some time after this meeting, please go through the website. It's going to be live. It's a kind of living document, so we'll be updating it. So please do that and let us know your feedback. Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you. You were on the agenda. So go forth, Matt.
Thanks, Gillen. Going to walk through a brief update from the Stormwater Department. Let's see. We'll start with some project updates. We did sort of a full round of updates last committee meeting. So this meeting, we're going to just highlight a couple of projects. Kaylin stole a little bit of our thunder, really, with her her great work on this for the city signing the funding agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for both the Brick Arch Rehab and the DuPont Wapu Drainage Project. So I'll be very brief on these. The brick arches, as you probably all remember from previous updates, are the old city sanitary sewer system that was replaced when the city modernized with CWS to a treated sewer system. So working through cleaning out and restoring those arches, working with the Corps on design and construction, looking to complete design over the next 6 months or so, move into procurement with the Corps, and then do construction in 2026. Planning to do about a mile of arch on the Cumming Street system. The city has previously restored that system from the low battery up to about Calhoun Street. With this project, we're looking to go from Calhoun Street up to about Morris, the low areas around Morris, which is the top of that system. And then also working on the Calhoun Street arch itself, starting down by the aquarium and coming back towards Meeting Street, which are two relatively flood-prone areas in the peninsula, major through streets as well for restoration. The DuPont Wapu project, that is the basin centered around Citadel Mall. The city is currently in final permitting on the first project within that overall basin. centered on the neighborhoods at Hazelwood, Taperwood, and Orleans Road. Well, the Corps will be looking at a design project for the major arterial canal that runs east out of the mall, slightly to the south of that neighborhood. On this map, you can see it kind of as project areas 5, 6, 7, and 9. And that is currently design level funding. We'll be continuing to work with the Corps for additional funding on those projects. The other project I wanted to highlight is our Forest Acres Drainage Improvement Project. This is now a completed project. It did just win the South Carolina American Public Works Association Project of the Year for 2025 in the environment category. Always exciting to get a major statewide award like that. So thought it was a worthwhile project to highlight since it aligns somewhat with what we're hoping to do on the DuPont Wapu project, though in a different scale and a different style. In combination with phase 1, which we'll discuss in a moment, we improved drainage for about 500 acres of West Ashley and got, with part of this project, eliminated a failing pump station that needed to be replaced and was not providing flood relief to the area. So quick refresher of where this is. We're looking at St. Andrews Boulevard in the black, coming through the triangular intersection into Highway 61 here. The blue highlighting is the drainage area improved by the project. The gray is phase 1, kind of the orangey yellow is phase 2. Phase 1 you will probably recognize as the West Ashley Bikeway. This was installing the drainage improvements that are under and next to the bikeway, realigning St. Andrews Boulevard, removing the pump station. That was completed back in 2017, 2018. Then we shifted into a long-term effort with AT&T to relocate a duct bank, a telecommunications duct bank they had on Playground Road that apparently provided phone service to the majority of inner West Ashley. So AT&T did end up relocating and reworking that duct bank to allow us to do this project. We, as you can see on the screen, the existing conditions of the drainage system, quite a bit of undersizing, very old system, some disrepair, obviously. So we came back, worked through construction similar to phase 1, installing box culverts, major pipe systems, improving canals. And then on the left, you can see the current version of Playground Road with the new sidewalk and drainage system and this canal coming through that's been improved, box culverts added, as well as additional sections, again, of that corridor going from the bikeway up north and across Playground Road behind the St. Andrews Parks and Playgrounds fields all the way up to Highway 61 with an offshoot that splits down and comes past the St. Andrews Parks and Playgrounds through the Pimell Apartments. So great project. Basically created a gravity system in order to resolve what would have been a major pump station in many scenarios. A lot of really good design work, incorporating that bike ped accessibility into stormwater work, trying to leverage a project to do more than one thing. A lot of the goals that we have today for the department. I did want to also discuss some maintenance work. We spent a lot of time talking about capital projects and small projects. Those are certainly where a lot of the attention gets spent, a lot of the funding gets allocated. Grant programs are very successful, but the maintenance work is where we really sort of see the best cost benefit ratios for investment by the city and making sure that our existing systems perform as well as they possibly can, as well as these new systems we build continue to perform at that level. So when we maintain within the stormwater department, we kind of break our maintenance into a few different categories. We have regional conveyance. These are these big scale systems, typically canals, major canals and easements like you just saw with Forest Acres, but also very large box culverts under roadways that collect water from a series of other neighborhoods or roadways and convey it out into the river. Those are generally under major roads, but not always. It's a more complicated network. The roadside drainage system, this collects the water from the road itself, from the yards and the homes, businesses adjacent to the roads. If you're in the older subdivisions in the city, you're generally looking at open channel like you see in this upper right corner with driveway pipes, roadway culverts. If you're in more current subdivisions, like you'll see in Outer West Ashley, parts of James Island, Daniel Island, typically a closed system with pipes on both sides of the road. You'll see a stormwater pipe on each side of the road. And then if you're in the peninsula in the very oldest subdivisions, typically only a single pipe in the middle of the road with the boxes draining to that pipe due to the density of construction and the space limitations for the road. Rear yard drainage systems. These are something we don't think about a lot generally as the public, but are very important from a functionality perspective. These are the either pipes or more commonly open ditch systems that run behind homes and through industrial parks or commercial properties. Typically, these are, again, open channel. They do often collect water from a larger area and drain it out, but sometimes do just drain those properties themselves. And then the outfalls, all of this water has to get somehow into the river. On the bottom right, you can see because we're so low geographically, that typically means building and maintaining a canal or a ditch through the marsh system and keeping those in current condition. And then we have some miscellaneous, let's say, items that we maintain as a department that don't fit sort of these above categories. We have our pump stations on the peninsula, check valves throughout the city that prevent that tidal intrusion, and then the brick arch system that we discussed with the Army Corps of Engineer project a moment ago. So how do we maintain all of this? We basically have a field operations division within our department. Within that division, we have an open channel heavy equipment maintenance crew. So that's a crew of backhoes and excavators that do work on those open ditch systems, both for the roadside and for the major canals. We've been going through a rehabilitation effort over the last few years, trying to get all of those systems back to full functionality. There's a lot of deferred maintenance in some of the older neighborhoods. That crew also performs targeted efforts for spot repair. And the intent is once the rehabilitation is complete, we'd shift to a once per year inspection as we maintain cycle, cleaning up those major systems and roadside systems. We do also have a construction crew that mostly works on targeted efforts, repairs to failed driveway pipes, catch basins, curb inlets, and performs some of the in-house design small project work that we do that we've talked about in previous meetings. We have a jet vector team, have a handful of jet vector trucks, go through once per year, do catch basin cleaning on the peninsula, as well as some selected pipe cleaning, and then do targeted efforts wherever we see water that's being held throughout the city, go through and do pipe and catch basin cleaning in those areas. Hand clean ditch crews. This is how we maintain most of those rear yard systems, is with a crew of workers who come through with weed eaters and pole saws and pitchforks and clean out those systems. We've rehabilitated those pretty thoroughly over the last few years and have switched from what was maybe once per year cleaning to now where we can do once per year cleaning on all the systems and twice per year generally on the more flood prone areas for that vegetation maintenance. And then lastly, our project management team in the office supports the field ops teams with daily monitoring and maintenance of our pump stations, once per year check valve inspections that we coordinate, and targeted efforts with things like the brick arch rehabilitation or emergency repairs. So now that we've presented that, I wanted to kind of circle back around to what Kaylin had mentioned, that we've given a lot of information on projects over the last couple of meetings, small projects, different maintenance efforts. We know you all have questions, things that you found out that you'd like to know more about, or things you haven't heard about that you would like to know how that works, whether it's how we maintain things or why we have flooding the way we do, or as Mr. Thulgar mentioned, how the regulations tie into all of this. So if you have those questions, probably other people have those questions. So we'd love to get some feedback on what do you want to know more about? And then what would be the best way for us to share that information? Like, how do you wish that information was available to you? And Kaylin, that's what I had for today.
Well,
Thanks,
if I
Matt.
could start off, if you're asking for questions, or I'd be glad to ask some.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
John and folks and all those with their hands raised. Well, I'll ask Mr. Mayor, but we are a little short on time, so I did want to give him his time to do his update and then save some Q&A after that. Mr. Mayor, do you want to go ahead now and then do questions?
Yeah, I'll be very brief.
Okay.
But a lot is happening. Let me say thank you to Matt and his team. I mean, what I'm getting ready to talk about is some bigger picture stuff, but in terms of the day-to-day flooding, they're doing a phenomenal job. And I just want to say thank you for all their hard work and dedication. The two things I wanted to give you all an update on is that and my chairman, Mr. Waring, isn't even aware of this yet, but we are contemplating putting on the August Public Works and Council meeting agenda an update with the battery extension project that I'll send out some details on with you all because it's still very much a work in progress. But the good news is that we've had some very strong meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers. They've been very receptive all the way up to the top and working through a way to potentially expedite the planning and implementation of the battery project. And without getting into too much detail, because it's still very much a work in progress, the original intent of the first phase of the PED drawings was to just do the western alignment and to really go forward with complete construction drawings on that and committing to that without really knowing what exactly the alignment would be or the design. And so what we're trying to shift to right now with the money that's already been allocated to the port is, instead of just doing full CDs on the western alignment, doing 30% drawings on the entire thing, so that we have a lot of clarity on the entire project versus looking at it piecemeal. The Corps has been open to changing the definition of the design that would allow for this. There's some other machinations that we need to go through, but I'm optimistic that we can get there. And I think it'll be a huge breakthrough in order to get that project up and going, and frankly, give us a lot more control. So they've been great to work with, but I just wanted to give you all that update. I'm going to be coming to council, like I said, with more details on this at the August meeting. And then following up with that in the September meeting, moving off the peninsula in the water plan priorities and BFAP initiatives, want to start dialing in on what our priorities are that are coming in terms of the water plan recommendations, and how we can start putting together funding strategies for these initiatives. So that's what I'd like for you all to be thinking about. Our next meeting is in September, which is just before our council meeting, and I'd like to spend some time during that meeting to kind of discuss y'all's thoughts on what the priorities should be related to the water plan, because very much want you all engaged on that effort. And hopefully we'll have a pretty robust update on where we are with the Army Corps on the peninsula as well. So that's my general update. A lot is happening right now with regards to water, and some pretty exciting breakthroughs over the past 30 to 45 days.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we have about 10 minutes left. So I know we had a lot of hands go up. So I wanna get to those hands because Matt sort of opened up his can of worms there at the end. So I know that got people excited. So I will say, whatever we're not able to get to or address right here on this call, send me the message. We'll make sure that we address it and address it at our next committee as well. And also we do have 2 public comments that were submitted. So I want to save a few minutes for those as well. But Mr. Wilson, I saw your hand go up first. So please, our James Island representative.
Okay, thank you. Well, as we all know, the people from James Island can be a little more vocal about things than others. And if there's developments happening or issues, there'll be a lot of letters and there'll be a lot of people that have conflicting ideas. A pretty ongoing, this is mainly directed to the mayor and to Matt Fountain. Probably the most controversial development on James Island is literally in my backyard. And I own properties that are substantial on either side of this development. And it's that ongoing question about annexing the 3-acre stormwater pond. And a lot of the neighbors complain about flooding, and there's all these different issues. I have a different understanding of it because my property is at essentially the end of the road on the corner, which I have my own development plan for, but the whole road is supposed to drain to me. but I'm the only one that has maintained my ditch and my culverts and the stormwater system for about a decade. And so I didn't know if Grimble Road Extension was on the city's plan. And the issue, from my perspective, is that the city's taken all this heat for it, but it's not the city's responsibility because it's mostly Charleston County properties and it's a DOT road. And then beyond that, the residents up the road have not maintained any of their own properties. But really, it's not really a flooding problem on Grimble Extension or the Moultrie Tract or the potential stormwater pond around me. It's the fact that there's a major maintenance issue where the culverts and the ditch system hasn't been touched in 30 years, so the water can't move. So I wanted y'all to be aware of that. I mean, every time it rains, I go back in the woods where the stormwater pond is going to be, and there's never any water, even though it is a wetland area. And I think that the city could really gain a lot of credit with James Island if they added, cleaning a half a mile section of road over here to the maintenance plan.
I would say I'd urge you to show up at the meeting on Tuesday when this is being taken up. I'm curious, are you for or against the annexation so that he can build those townhomes?
Well, I am for property rights and I am for smart, sustainable development. I don't think that project is a very creative, it doesn't meet any of the LID standards. There's no permeable pavement. There's no, it's just kind of just another generic project to me. But since I have my own property rights and I respect that, it's kind of hard for me to be in the middle. I don't really want to weigh an opinion. Am I for or
That's
against it?
fair. That's fair. I think just for, so we can get the other questions, like, look, I'm happy to sit down with you on it. I think the staff is not in favor of the annexation because of what the intent is. And, but several of your neighbors are for it because they are paranoid about, understandably, what could come besides residential. But it is a low area. And it certainly goes against what our water plan would recommend doing. So that's the battle that we have. And it'll be a lively debate, I can tell you, at council. So certainly appreciate what you're saying. If something does move forward, then your point on the maintenance, the basic maintenance, should be first and foremost on the list.
Well, I'll try and make the meeting, and I thought about speaking on it previously, but I feel like I'm in an awkward place because I do kind of benefit from property value and business value standpoint, and it's too easy to get kind of thrown in the mix where I want to be a little more neutral, It's
What's your call? I mean, I hear you and I respect that, but I mean, it'll be pretty debated. I can tell you that next week.
And Mayor, brief for that, I think that zero folly that Charles is discussing, that one I think may have been deferred. I think again, I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, it did?
Worth double checking the agenda.
Oh, that's shortened our meeting.
There is another parcel that has been a discussion of with the PUD and annexation with the PUD down the road from there that may or may not be on the meeting still.
Okay.
But worth checking the agenda.
Matt, as we're wrapping up here, I think maybe it also just maybe for next topic to talk about at our September meeting. I know we've internally had a lot of conversations about how the city interfaces and interacts in these multi-jurisdictional areas through maintenance of SCDOT and county. So I think we could probably have a longer conversation to address that as well. But want to make sure we get a few more people in here while we're getting under the clock. Mr. Wonderly, I think I saw you next.
Hey, thank you, Kaylin. Just a couple of comments real quick. I think one, always love getting these reports from Matt because it really highlights how much is going on in the stormwater department and all the work that's going on in the community. And this is maybe a question for Matt and for Sebastian. Like, is there a thought about how to get that information out to the public? Like, what are we doing in your neighborhood? What are we doing in your community? Is that part of the website? Maybe it is already, and I just haven't had a chance to see it yet. But I think
Andrew, I think I can answer that briefly. I mean, we've got a pretty robust working with GIS. They've done a phenomenal job of mapping out not just the stormwater projects, but also maintenance, sidewalks, road improvements, where the rec facilities are coming. I mean, just you can scan across your neighborhood and learn all kinds of different things. So that's not live yet, but it is close to being completed.
Great. And is there, I mean, it's so, that'll be an essential sort of clearinghouse GIS format. Fantastic. Like, is there going to be a communication strategy behind like getting that out to the public, like trying to reach people where they are and all that?
Yeah, because it's going to be tying into the TST in 26, and we're preparing for a blanket rollout of everything that people need to be informed about as it relates to their neighborhood. So we're as transparent and open as possible.
Good.
People can educate themselves.
Yeah. And real quickly, the second thought / comment I had was, really impressed with the way y'all are incorporating data. It was great to hear from Robert. Have y'all considered incorporating any water quality data into the GIS? I mean, there's such a strong relationship between flood and stormwater and then local water quality. I mean, we see it in our bacteria data. You can see it in parameters as simple as temperature and salinity and
Make a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
So incorporating some of that to see and monitor the impact of flooding improvements and stormwater improvements on water quality, I think could be really interesting. I'm happy to, take that conversation offline. We generate a lot of data. There's also a lot of data that's already out there. How can that be incorporated and
that'd be awesome.
More than the process.
Andrew, stay tuned for an email. You just volunteered yourself.
More work for myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy to help.
We'll try to get
right.
our last two in here. Gray, I think I saw you next, and then John will go for you, and then we have our two public comments. Gray, you're on mute.
Unmute. Thank you. I appreciate it. Great meeting. Again, I appreciate all these updates and all the work that y'all are doing to make this a comprehensive process. And Matt, thank you for the update on Forest Acres as well. I live not too far from that project, so it's been interesting to watch that happen. Of all the questions I have, I'm going to try to keep it focused. So, in the nature of time to this particular project and how this could apply to others in West Ashley. What opportunities are there for adding additional landscaping or ways that we can disrupt all of the things in addition to water that are flowing out of these yards and out of streets that not only are entering our waterways, but also could potentially be obstructions within the culverts and other areas that they could bottleneck on the way out to the river?
Yes, that's a great point. The Forest Acres project addressed that by installing what we refer to as like trash racks, which are basically large primary screens near the outfalls that then get cleaned and they remove that debris before it enters the marsh, which is great. We have looked at the DuPont Wapu project in particular, where we have a similar challenge, and it's always a space constraints issue is always the most difficult part with these, but we would like, and we envision the potential of maybe a little more stream renaturalization worked into the system, which would let you get a better water quality, more of like a treatment train approach, we call it, where you distribute that water quality rather than a point treatment at the end. So that's something that's kind of evolved as we've gotten more through, Dutch dialogues processes and done work in Barbary Woods and Church Creek and started to build this green infrastructure component into our projects as well. So great question. That's something we're looking at in these future linear projects, similar to what we're doing right now in our flood storage projects on Johns Island in Outer West Ashley and in some of Middle West Ashley on retrofits.
Well, I'd love to see a lot of reintroduction of biodiversity to those areas and using our nature-based solutions in those areas especially. And the second half to this, which is more future facing, I'm curious how this project either sets up or fits into the Blue Crescent concept that's part of the water plan.
So the DuPont WAPU project, basically that linear corridor we're talking about with the Army Corps of Engineers, comes pretty much all the way back to tie into the Forest Acres project on one end. And then as you go south, we're looking at an improvement project for the East Oak, West Oak forest neighborhoods that goes straight south, which basically starts to do what that water plan is looking at by kind of re-knitting and reconnecting some of these old drainage systems throughout the city.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And John, if you want to bring us home with the
Yep,
last
real quick.
question we have here.
One comment and one question. The comment is, they were talking about the newsletter. I think it's a fantastic newsletter, much better than the city ever had before. So I appreciate you doing that. The one suggestion though would be that you have not only the city newspaper, but it would be great to have editions for each area of the town. I mean, the Johns Island, West Ashley, because there's so much information, and after a while, the general newsletter is going to be too much in there. So you might want to consider having both that as well as people can ask for their own edition, if you will. But the other question really is, you may be aware that yesterday the county council had their offsite meeting. Big part of the discussion was the TST that the mayor just discussed. Nowhere was a discussion of affordable housing or stormwater, things that need to be funded. So I guess the question for you, Mayor, is what's the probability of the legislature adding that to the TST in the next go around?
Low to zero, unfortunately, but we are looking at some other options that could allow for that to happen. It's a little more involved, if I'm honest with you, John. I'm glad to talk with you offline about it. But we're certainly not giving up. I suspect that county council will be receptive to the different ideas that we're working on, because I've talked to some of them about it. I'm optimistic. I really am.
For alternative approaches? Okay.
So, and then I like your idea on the custom newsletters. I think Deja is just had a heart attack and she doesn't even know about it yet. But
well, actually, at the water, one of the Waterwise ones, I mentioned that to her. So and she kind of thought it was an interesting idea too. But I just wanted to keep pushing because I hate to say this, I don't really care what's happening in Daniel Island. I don't mean that in a bad sense. It's like,
you sound like a Johns Islander. You sound like a Johns Islander.
I mean, in terms of what the rezoning is coming up there or that type of thing. I'm more interested in Johns Island and the broader picture of the city overall.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's legit.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Thank you. And just before we close, we did have two public comments. We had Mr. William Oriani, I'm probably butchering his name. He was inquiring about improving drainage in the Oak Forest neighborhoods and the DuPont Wapu Basin and getting an update on that. He said originally there was some concepts for upsizing the pipes running under 17 in the Greenway and to alleviate flooding. Tasks sound like a lengthy regulatory design and construction effort. So he was curious about any headway. I think, Matt, you gave some pretty good updates for what's going on in West Ashley. And I think, Mr. Rowney, through this committee, you'll see how we're going to work through how we are navigating, how we implement some of these more heavily resourced functions. And then our second public comment too was from Ms. Hill. She was asking about the Wagner Terrace neighborhood and impacts of the Army Corps Peninsula Perimeter Protection Project. And Mayor, I think you answered her question that she will see more details of the design of that on the peninsula in the coming months. So we didn't have any other public comments submitted, but again, thank you all for your time today. You know how to constantly get your feedback to myself and our other city staff and mayor and leadership represented here. And we look forward to seeing you in September. I would, again, give you a little bit of homework to peruse that new website and also think about some of the presentations and questions and feedback we requested of you today, from Data to Matt's questions as well, of what you want to continuously hear from us. And please get out and talk to your neighbors in your community and get their feedback as well. Okay, well, we almost the weekend. We wish you all a happy rest of the week, and we will see you in September.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.